Welcome back to Sister to Sister. This is our second video segment on our topic, Purity is Possible. We want to thank everyone that tuned in and that, were blessed and that sent us messages and just shared your testimonies with us. And so we want to continue engaging in this conversation because, we understand that purity, that there's power in purity, but we also understand that there's process in purity. And so these video segments are really just to help us in this process. And so it's a huge topic, but again, we want to dig deeper. And so we want to start off first with understanding that purity starts with the mind. And before we start, we just want a scripture verse that we want to set as a foundation to help us understand that, this is not based on our own strength, but it's really, as 1 John 3:3 says, it's because, and everyone who has this hope in him is purified. And because he is pure. And so we do this not because we have our own strength, but because we understand and we have hope in him to walk us through this process. And so just a disclaimer, in our desire to talk about this, it's not for the purpose of bombarding you with don't do this and don't do that. I think we get enough of that in the world, or, we're kind of bombarded with both spectrums of, have sex before marriage and don't even touch a guy. So we're trying to project a balance in this and help us understand that there are things that God says that we should walk in, but it's not to put a cage around us and help us not, or make us not see that we can't have a relationship with guys or we can't do this. So I just want to set that as a disclaimer before we start into anything. I just thought it was important. And so as we said last time, purity starts in the mind. Scripture says, be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. And so we understand that there's so many things that that we've been bombarded with. Principles, philosophies, concepts, movies, love songs, and there's so many things that our minds are just clouded with. It's so hard to see, and it's so hard to think straight sometimes. And so we just want to help you know that it starts with the mind, and the three things that we want to talk about is helping us change our minds about ourselves, about our brothers, and about relationships in general. So we're going to just dig a little deeper into that, and Becky's going to start off with changing our mind about ourselves.
Hey everybody, I'm excited to be back with you guys. I had a blast doing it last time, and thank you again for the feedback. It definitely was a blessing to me and Yodit. And so here we are again, going deeper and trying to take a really good look at this thing through God's point of view and learning how to apply it to ourselves. And so first of all, the first point is you have to change your mind about yourself. We all have to do it. We need to start thinking about ourselves the way that God thinks about us. He has a hope, He has a plan, and He has a future for us. According to Jeremiah 29, the promises are abundant in the Bible about what He thinks about you, that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that you're the apple of His eye. These are all His very explicit expressions of how He thinks of you and how He esteems you in such high regard. And so we have to take comfort in that. We have to replace all of those former lies with that everlasting truth that He promises us. And so that's number one. And then another really important point that we need to really just be mindful of is changing the way that we look about our past. And I know that was something that was and continues to be a process for me, because we need to change the way that we look at our past so that we can see our future clearer. We can't see where God is taking us if we keep looking behind us and judging ourselves and condemning ourselves for what we did or didn't do, or it's I think it's really normal to do that, but it's not productive and it's not healthy if we stay in that place where we don't look forward to the promises that God has for us and the restoration that He has for us in purity. So just be mindful of that. The mindset that we don't deserve a good guy because of our past is a lie. It's just a blatant lie. And so to challenge that, I really want you to challenge that thought if you're having it, that even though you have, not the squeaky clean past that you would like, that's okay, because once again, God's story, the story of Jesus Christ, trumps our own
Right.
every single time. And so the more we stay focused on him
Right.
and his grace and his love and his promises towards us, the less our past will have an influence in regards to our future. So just keep that in mind as you move forward. And again, that's all in the mind. That is all in the mind, and you're in control of that.
Right.
Number two,
Number two, we're going to talk about changing our minds about our brothers, about guys. It's easy for some of us, the first thing we think about when we think about guys is they can be dogs, or they can, all they want is a specific thing. And so we really, based on our past experiences, we really have what we believe. And that's okay, because our experiences have taught us that. But what we want to do in this purity process is help us change our minds about our brothers. And so not every guy out there is going to want what you think he wants. And not every guy, and there's some guys that are going to be ones to help you guard your hearts. And so in this process is helping us just kind of strip from that mindset that our brothers are bad, we can't hang with them. And it's really stripping that and saying, how do we start viewing our brothers in light of what God has said? They are our counterparts, and not just husband sakes, but we're created to coexist.
Yeah.
We're created to help one another in this life. And so it's really, one thing, sometimes it's like, either don't have a crush on a guy. That's bad. And I remember feeling that. I remember really feeling like if I have a crush on someone, then I am impure.
No.
And so it's breaking down those things that we've been taught, or those things that we've just seen, and saying, there's certain emotions that we're always going to have.
Yeah.
But how do we, in light of God and understanding God, place them in the right places so that in our own hands we don't distort them, we don't manipulate them. And so we have to understand that we need to ask God for discernment when it comes to interacting with, when it comes to us viewing our brothers. Granted, there are going to be guys out there who are really, who are just really not the best for us. But then how do we discern those brothers or those guys that we're able to have that kind of relationship? We're able to have a healthy relationship. And so it's really just trusting God that he can reveal that to us, and trusting one another as sisters also to help each other discern that. And so please, let's change our mind about our guys. This is not about guys. This is not about their enemies and we're the victims at all. This is just part of purity. It's just to help us see that our brothers are there for a reason. And when we understand that and when we change our minds about it, our relationships will change. And Becky will talk about that.
A little bit about relationships. Again, it's such a massive topic. I don't pretend. We don't pretend to cover it all today in this really short clip, but just a couple of nuggets that I'm hoping will be helpful. Number one, relationships with guys do not have to be sexual in your mind, and definitely in person, in reality. Physical. Sometimes our mind can take us places where we don't really want to go. And I heard somebody say once that, our thoughts are like trains. If you get on the wrong one, it'll take you in the wrong direction real quick. And so we have to be really careful about our thoughts concerning our relationships and making sure that they're pure and putting everything under subjection, every feeling, every thought, and just letting God be the filter and not our own selves, because we'll mess it up eventually, and often. And God is the only one who can really keep us at a place where if we're dependent on Him, He'll keep us. Yeah, He'll keep us, and He has. And so we just need to try Him, prove Him, and He will. He absolutely will.
Right. And just to add a little more, we're meant to have relationships. God, in fact, created us for relationships. When He created Adam first, and he called everything good, but looked at Adam and said, it's not good for man to be alone.
Wasn't good.
He created someone, and that's because God, lives in relationships. He breathes in relationships. And so it's to help us see that relationships are from God. But when it's handled by our own understanding, when it's handled by our own past experiences, we really, like as Becky said, can go in the wrong direction. So understand that our relationship with guys, it can be platonic. It can be healthy. We can really be with one another, and it doesn't have to be negative, as sometimes the extremity of sometimes the church can portray that. So we just want to help you guys see that. We got to change our mind. Purity starts in the mind. And as we said, the moment that you think that you can't, you've been defeated.
Yeah.
And so remember, purity starts in the mind. You got to understand what God says about you. You got to know that, because that's going to affect the way that you see everything else. It's going to affect how you view your brothers, and eventually it's going to affect how you view relationships.
Yeah.
So again, we hope that you've been blessed. You have anything else to say?
I do.
Go ahead.
Just one more clarifying thought about that foundation scripture in 1 John 3:3. He tells us to purify ourselves, those who hope in him to purify ourselves.
Yeah.
A lot of this purity process is up to us. We can pray and we can seek God and we can ask him to change us, and he will. But he also leaves some things for us to do. And so cleaning up our minds and our thoughts and our hearts is one of them. And if we keep bringing it back to him, he'll help us. But it is our responsibility to take control of every thought, every emotion, every act that we do, and give it to him. So
yes, couldn't have said any better. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And again, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
There's more that we're going to delve into. But again, in a couple of minutes, we can't go into it all. But we hope that you've learned a few things about purity.
Yeah.
So be blessed, and we hope to see you again on our next video segment. Until then, remember to declare that purity is possible. God bless.